Let's talk about how economic advantages of being an immigrant or an OFW causes emotional, potentially scarcity in our children, our families. This is a Filipino immigration story. I'm an immigrant myself. I'm Roanne Samuels. I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in California. Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about why there are so many Filipino uh, in diaspora and even or OFWs, the cost of being under privilege and the sort of the search for privilege at all costs, and also the emotional scarcity or the trade-off, and is it worth it? So welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. There are about 10 plus million Filipinos abroad, living abroad, OFWs globally. About 4.5 are in America. I'm one of them. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and now I'm raising my interracial, multiracial family here in California. One of the reasons, or one of the many reasons why Filipinos travel, immigrate abroad is because there is a very high unemployment rate in the Philippines. Even though our elders would say that ang edukasyon ang pamana, education is the most important thing. The problem with being educated in the Philippines is there's no placement for whatever course you finish. And that's a challenge. There are many brilliant Filipinos, at least, that's my bias. But we're all getting hungry because the government, the institutions are not working as they should. So, one of the reasons is for career advancement. So they might be occupying a good enough position in the Philippines, but they could further advance their career is one also reason. In general, is searching for greener pasture. My story is that my great grandfather served in the military. He's actually half Scottish, Irish, um, which allowed my grandmother, who's American citizen, to petition my mother and my mother to petition us. So that's kind of my immigration story. You still have to follow the rules, the laws around that. It took us forever to years. It's like chunks of us come to America. Some of my siblings actually decided to live in the Philippines. So those are the things. Also, some of the research that some people leave because they are becoming uncomfortable with the political landscape. There are many other reasons that I haven't mentioned here, but those are the main ones, the search for greener pasture. Now, one of the things that's important to understand is the culture of poverty. Sometimes, even if you live in the Philippines, but you just hang out with people in your same socioeconomic status, you might not really understand this. You might see people, beggars. Um, I had the benefit only because there is this mixing of marriage, of culture in my lineage. My father actually was not very rich and he lived in the province, so it allowed me to be exposed to different socioeconomic classes of people. So important to understand if you hang out with regular people in the Philippines that if you don't have any privilege, that means you don't have voice, wala kang say, right? And if you hang out enough, you would understand that pag wala kang pera, if you're sick, if you get sick, you go to just pampublikong uh, hospital, just public hospital. Even if you go to sometimes the regular ones, it you would have to have a privilege, money, connection, and that's why people who understand, who have experienced being underprivileged, it really would sting you, and you would do anything that you can to climb up the privilege um, ladder. So you would buy that. Now, there's a lot of because we value also family so much, the shadow side of that is we have nepotism, corruption is more rampant, the bata bata system that I have mentioned in my other. As much as that, that's a sad part because Filipinos are very beautiful, very generous and resilient people, but their resiliency can also be misused by them, by us, but also the people around us. So that's the second part, okay, is that the cost of privilege is that you don't have any voice. It's hard to move. People may not honor you. And if you go to particular provinces, yung talagang rural part, I know that sometimes us here in America, maybe some people in Manila, cosmopolitan area might say, might romanticize the indigenous culture. But if you talk to indigenous cultures who have to travel, and I know this, that somebody's hospitalized, they have to travel by boat to just get to the next hospital. They love that they are able to be able to provide food because they're planting. So they're maybe rich in food, but there's no currency, and currency is what they need. So they actually ask for basically more of a capitalist balance. I want to be careful not to speak on their behalf, but I've spoken to many of mga katutubo, mga indigenous culture, that they do want to balance that so that not everybody's going to Manila. Because if you're not aware, that's what's been happening. Everybody, all the businesses are going to Manila because there's not much happening, or so they say in the provinces. But our indigenous culture, or maybe not even indigenous, just people who live in the provinces are lacking the currency. So it's very similar in America. There are some rural parts in America also, and they maybe going to LA or San Francisco, makes you kind of big-eyed, right? That's where the party is. So privilege is very important in that way. Third part is that when we leave our children, that happens to a lot of OFW. Sometimes they have to leave their younger children. Um, the cost of that, the trade-off is the feeling of abandonment. And of course, knowing our Filipino culture, they're so binded by family love and connection. So it's very hard for the mothers. There are more female OFWs. And so there's separation, the feeling of being abandoned, the feeling of if you are an immigrant child in America, you might feel like there's a burden that you have to utang na loob, to give back to your elders. There's a sense of sometimes feeling shame and guilt and not feeling Filipino enough, and yet you're not American, Canadian, or whatever enough. So the cause of that is the exchange is that perhaps you're in a safer place, more organized, first world country, depending on where you are, but talking about being in America. But potentially that could be the exchange, the emotional scarcity. Also, understanding that when immigrants leave, when I left the country, I have to leave everything behind, even my emotional resources, and start back again. So there's always this trade-off. My question for you, and leave that in the comment, is that do you think for economic advantage, and what it brings to a potential emotional disadvantage, is it still worth it to immigrate? So comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to receive weekly love notes from me, where you're not having to look for my articles, my podcast, all of the things that I do, I just send it to you in your inbox. No chismis, just good stuff for you. Um, Go ahead and subscribe, and the notes below. Take good care at maraming salamat. Again, this is Roanne Digia Samos. Visit calamansijuice.com for more articles.